taken from the verse in the Gospel. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. The story of Mary and Martha is a simple one. Jesus dines in the home of two sisters. After dinner, he teaches. One sister sits at his feet and listens. The other sister does all the chores, cleaning up after the big meal. Straightforward, right? Perhaps. Careful students of Luke, however, will not be so easily lured into thinking that this is a simple story about familial disagreement. They know there is more to discover. Studying Luke, we know the author did not place accounts of Jesus' ministry and action capriciously or haphazardly. Luke tied together stories to make a point. Luke crafted his gospel to delight and to teach us about God and Jesus. So what does the placement of the story of Mary and Martha tell us? If you remember last week's reading, which occurs immediately before his arrival at the home of the sisters, Jesus tells a young lawyer the parable of the Good Samaritan. A man is robbed and left for dead. A priest and Levite ignore his moans, but a Samaritan stops and helps him. The Samaritan does good. Once he finishes telling the parable, Jesus tests the lawyer, seeing if he understands it. Convinced he does, Jesus says, "Go and do likewise." Now, while in the home of the two sisters, Jesus notices Martha distracted by many chores and tasks. On the other hand, Mary sits at the feet of Jesus, doing nothing but listening. Jesus criticizes Martha because she is doing while her sister listens, doing nothing. Wait a minute. Didn't Jesus teach the young lawyer to go and do? Now he instructs Martha to sit and listen, to not do. I don't know about you, but it is the middle of summer, it is hot, it is humid, and now we have to think. And what's more, this is not what I bargained for on a nice, hot, warm morning in July. Maybe the coupling of the stories by Luke is not worth our time. Maybe we should just forget it. However, if we ignore the story's placement in the gospel, what are we left with? The story immediately becomes uncomfortable. In examining Mary and Martha, some scholars say the story raises difficult questions about the role of a woman. Should she be the one that does all the work around the house, or the one who is silent? Some preachers use this reading to speak about the difference between siblings. Should one be the child who helps out around the house, or the one who sits quietly and listens to the teacher? What do we want? A clean house or a smart kid? I want both. So, what to do? One biblical scholar says, biblical texts do not exist to make us comfortable. They exist to make us think, to be engaged by God, and to affect our transformation. I agree. It may be hot and uncomfortable, but we can still wrestle with challenging biblical texts. We're Episcopalians, after all. The coupling of these two stories gives us a balance between doing and listening. Not long ago, I preached about the importance of being rather than doing. I was at a church full of doers. Oh boy, did I get an earful after that one. One person said to me, "We are doers. That's what we do." She was right. It was a very active church for its size. They did a lot of things, but they were out of balance. If Luke had only included the story of the Good Samaritan, then our spiritual lives would simply be about service, mission, and doing. We could point at the Good Samaritan and say, "Okay, let's get to work, everyone." But Luke included the story of Mary and Martha. He's the only gospel writer to do so. By placing the Good Samaritan, by placing it next to the Good Samaritan, he teaches us that our spiritual lives are more than action. Mary's actions add 3 ingredients to our spiritual lives. First, she listens to the Word, Jesus, the Son of God. The Word made flesh speaks, and she listens. Second, Mary doesn't respond to Martha. She allows Jesus, the Word, to speak to Martha. Third, Mary is still. All 3 of these, to listen to the Word, to allow the Word to speak to others, and to be still, add immensely to our spiritual growth. We need to hear the Word, whether it is here in church or reading the Bible at home. We must be in regular contact with the Bible. If you happen to miss church one Sunday, then be sure to read the Bible at home during the week. We need to let God respond, even when it may be hard to do so, hard to hold back and refrain from speaking. Unfortunately, we live in a society that says that we must respond to others. It's almost assumed and required for us to do so. Giving space to God's Word to speak, however, is necessary for spiritual growth. We need to be still. We need to stop regularly and be. Doing is important, but we can do too much by being active all the time. We can fill our days with important, unimportant things. By stopping and being still, we allow for the busyness to settle and our minds to clear. When we stop and be still, we allow ourselves to listen to God speaking in us. The beauty of Luke's gospel is that he places stories where we have to think. The gospel gives us simple stories with complex meanings. It gives us wisdom wrapped in familiar situations. Luke tells us to do the Word and listen to the Word. Each of us is called to the rhythm of action and listening. When we find ourselves too much one way or the other, we adjust and rebalance. Once we reset, we will hear God calling us back to Him and sending us out